Hey guys, welcome back. This is Will, and I want to talk a little bit more about the UI in Reaper. So first things first, I want to talk a little bit about multiple selection of tracks. You select these tracks, you can move the volume and the panning. You can also mute all these. I'm holding Control and selecting. I'll select the solo these. If you hold Control and click mute or solo, just like in Pro Tools, this will turn off all the mutes and that'll turn off all the solos. So that can be very useful. Also, you notice that next to the FX button, there's always this little green button. That's the FX bypass button. So when you click that, it's gone red. It's bypassing the entire effects chain here, which is obviously very useful, especially on the master bus. Another feature of the UI that for some reason I neglected to mention is the clip volume. If you simply drag the top of a clip, that'll adjust the gain. You'll notice that it actually updates the waveform in real time, and this also works with fades. Now that I've faded in, you can see it fading, and the same works with crossfades as well. So if I were to crossfade this into that, you can now see the updated waveform. Take this down. You can see it all updating in real time. Another feature, of course, is the time stretching. This works pretty much identically to how it does in Vegas and Sonar. You just hold Alt, it changes to this pointer, and you can simply drag. It'll tell you the rate down there. You can change the time stretching algorithm by going into the clip properties. So just click a clip, hit F2, and you change that here. I usually stick with Elastique because it's very good. And I have that set by default in the project. We'll go over preferences later, but that's just where it is. Another thing to note is that you can have effects on clips themselves, not just on the track, but also on the clip. If you press Shift E, I believe, that'll bring up the effects rack for just this clip. And now you can get to it just by clicking here. I'm not sure if that's a shortcut by default, but if it's not, then you can create one. You simply go into the actions menu, which I'll also talk about later, but that's just the question mark key. And the action is called item show effects chain for selected item take. And you see here, I have it on Shift E. So that's very useful, especially if you're editing instrumental or vocal solos. You can have different effects on individual notes if you want. Another thing to note is that once you have an effect on a clip, if you split the clip, the effect is now copied. This is just simply a copy of the original. It's not a mirror, so if I were to change this here, it's not going to mirror it there. Another thing I want to talk about is moving sections of a song around using time selection. So the first thing you would do is you would select however much empty space you would need in the destination. I'm going to turn snapping on, and I'm just going to select that. Now that this is selected, I'll right click and insert empty space, and it'll just insert as much space as you've selected there. Then I'm going to grab whatever content I want from the source to move over. I've already cut this together, but you can very easily chop everything by moving the cursor there, split, split. If nothing is selected, it'll just select everything. So I'm just going to move this over. Another thing to note is that whenever there's a time selection and an item selection, if you control click, it'll actually just move over what was in the time selection. So that can save you a click or two. In any case, now we've moved content over from the source to the destination already. So I'm just going to select whatever the source was and right mouse click, remove content to moving later items. And this basically just moves everything over. Two more things in the UI I'd like to show. Reaper has what's called tabbed projects. If you go to File and New Project tab, you can have multiple projects simultaneously. This just allows you to copy things between projects. You can go from one project to another very quickly, copy and paste. The other is the batch converter. If you go File, Batch Converter, this is basically your typical batch conversion. You can change the formats, change the bit depth, sample rate. It also allows you to put in any kind of a VST effects chain. So it's obviously very useful for that. The last bit I want to talk about is ripple editing. This works the same as in Pro Tools or in other programs that have ripple editing. So you just click it on. And now that I've turned this on, it'll move everything. Reaper has the ability to ripple edit for all tracks. So now that I've clicked that, it'll move everything over, even though just a little bit of this track was selected. And that's it. Stay tuned for the next video where I'll talk a little bit more about preferences.